Even the earliest humans were obsessed with space. A lot of people think humanity's future lies in space. It's really no surprise that sci-fi is one of the more popular genres of fiction. Think of properties like Dune, Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, Battlestar Galactica. But what do all these things have in common? Spaceships. People love spaceships. Comment what your favorite spaceship is to drive the engagement on this video. So why hasn't there been a good mainstream capital ship based video game? Many have tried, and today I'll talk about a few that I've played before and a few that I still play right now.
Job destination set and ready. Played out. Job complete.
This is Fractured Space. It came out in 2014 and is a 5v5 capital ship MOBA. Players chose between different ship types and roles from 3 families or manufacturers of ships. Ship roles included support, healers, ambushers, or a big f***off gun.
Camera online in 30 seconds. Back here. Enemy on sensors.
Fractured Space had multiple game modes, but the most popular one was Conquest. In Conquest, players would capture mining stations to earn tech upgrades for their ship before assaulting the enemy starbase. Players navigated to the different sectors using jump points. Jump access to the enemy base was granted by capturing their forward station. There was also a central objective called Gamma, which was a capture point that would open in intervals throughout the match. Capturing Gamma would grant your team powerful bonuses like speed, fire rate, and damage. These bonuses would scale in intensity throughout the match, with the final tier also opening jump access to the enemy starbase. Fractured Space's gameplay is slow and strategic, with a big emphasis on positioning. While some ships are faster than others, the ships in Fractured Space are still slow and sometimes hard to maneuver. Additionally, many ships have restricted firing arcs for their weapons, which means you have to position the nose or your broadside towards your enemy. Ships also have different strength armor facings on their front, back, broadsides, top, and bottom. To deal the most damage to an enemy, you'd target their weakest armor facing and break it, which removes the damage reduction received from the armor. Ships also took extra damage when their jump drive was spooling, which meant you couldn't just warp out of combat the second you got ambushed. Fractured Space's all-time player count on Steam was 6,302, but its servers were shut down in February of 2019 and it was removed from the Steam store.
Activated.
Dreadnought came out in 2017 and was an online capital ship combat game where players could choose various different ship types and roles from a list of 3 Didn't I literally just read this? Unlike Fractured Space, which had a large roster of unique ships, Dreadnought went with a tech tree approach, similar to World of Warships or War Thunder. This tech tree had multiple tiers, with more powerful ships in each tier. Although Dreadnought's ships controlled relatively similar to Fractured Space, with primary and secondary weapons, and abilities that you would activate on cooldowns, Dreadnought's gameplay was a lot simpler than Fractured Space. Dreadnought lacked things like Fractured Space's armor facings, customizable crew, or multi-sectored maps. Instead, Dreadnought maps were simply a wide-open arena with various terrain and props to hide behind. Dreadnought featured a fairly basic power system, which allowed the player to divert power to weapons, shields, or engines. Dreadnought's game mode was a team deathmatch, where players would spawn in on opposite ends of the map and fight until one team reached the score total. Dreadnought's top player count was 3,727, and its servers were shut down on July 11th, 2023. So, what's the deal, right? Why didn't either of these games work? Gathering public opinion via a couple quick searches online seems to show that both Fractured Space and Dreadnought had pretty poor marketing. You look up Dreadnought trailers on YouTube, and I don't think you can find any trailers for Dreadnought that came out after its full launch. No update trailers, no teasers for like new skins in the shop or anything, nothing. Dreadnought also suffered from connection issues and bugs upon release, as well as poor balance between the ship classes. Fractured Space did have some update trailers and some post-launch advertisements, but if you've ever played Fractured Space, or if you can just see the gameplay from earlier in this video, none of their trailers really show in-game gameplay examples. That is, with the exception of the early access trailer, which is technically captured with the in-game engine, but frankly, this trailer is so low quality and not representative of the final product that I hardly even want to mention it. With both of those games dead and gone, up next I've got two very much alive games and one very old single-player game that are of the same spirit. Aaron, how long have you been putting your crotch in my face?
It's been a while now.
Aaron, how long have you been pregnant?
Void Crew is a co-op roguelite that came out on Steam in November of 2024. It can be played either solo or with up to 4 players, although they're soon to increase the squad size to 6. Void Crew sees you operate a ship and maintain its power, internal modules, engines, etc., all while fighting enemies and completing objectives. Void Crew currently has 4 main archetypes of gameplay. And I say archetypes, not classes, because nobody is locked into one specific role. These archetypes are pilot, gunner, engineer, and scavenger. The pilot obviously pilots the ship, the gunners operate turrets, the engineer maintains the internals of the ship, charges the void drive, repairs the hull, and the scavenger EVAs outside of the ship to complete mission objectives where necessary. Traveling from mission to mission in Void Crew involves making a void jump. This requires a charged void drive and for the pilot to pull the big lever on the dashboard.
Three, 2, 1.
You also get turned into a splatter on the wall if you aren't seated when a void jump happens, unless you have a perk from the engineer's skill tree.
Tunnel collapsing. Beal, the Hollow have set an ambush. Their void interdiction pillar has us trapped.
There's currently 2 different ship platforms, the frigate and the destroyer, which each offer different loadouts. Although there's not a substantial difference between the two, other than the number of hard points in the frigate versus the destroyer. Overall, there's not a game that's quite like Void Crew in the space genre. It's definitely comparable to a game like Sea of Thieves, or that other pirate game that's not Sea of Thieves but wants to be Sea of Thieves. The gameplay of maintaining the ship feels very satisfying. There's lots of mechanical buttons to push and levers to pull. Making void jumps is really cool. The devs are actively updating Void Crew, so I'll definitely check it out on Steam and wherever else it's available. If it's available elsewhere, I'm not totally sure, because I only play on Steam.
Keep concentrating fire on individual ships. Separate them. Whittle down their numbers.
For whatever reason, Star Trek has quite a few spaceship command games under its IP. You've got Star Trek Online, Star Trek Bridge Commander, Star Trek Bridge Crew, which is kind of a precursor to Void Crew. Star Trek Online takes these more tactical Starship Command gameplay elements that you might see in some other games and converts them pretty smoothly into a RPG type format. Your bridge officers give your ship different abilities to use in combat, and as well as your player character, the captain, you get special abilities depending on what kind of focus you are, tactical engineering or science. The different types of ships will streamline relatively well into RPG archetypes, like science ships being wizards and casters, heavy engineering cruisers playing close to like tanks, and of course battle cruisers, escorts, things like that being more DPS oriented. Quite a few story arcs, which are clusters of missions in Star Trek Online that are meant to replicate the feel of the classic Star Trek shows, featuring, your character and your crew. You can customize your ship and upgrade it with internal modules, different kinds of weapons. Even your bridge crew can give your ship passive buffs and effects. It's a very in-depth system, which is to be expected from an RPG. Bridge Commander is a space combat simulator where you take control of your own galaxy class. Your character is, of course, the captain of the starship. You can interact with your different officers at the different stations, like commanding the helm to order certain maneuvers or attack runs, interacting with the tactical station to target specific enemy subsystems, enhance the yield of your torpedo bombardments, change the charge on your phaser banks, and of course you can also take a more direct control of the spaceship in the third-person camera, which makes it play a lot closer to some of these other games that I've mentioned, like Star Trek Online or Fractured Space and Dreadnought. Bridge Commander has a campaign which takes place before the movie First Contact, and it also has a sort of sandbox mode where you can just take any number of ships and put them in a cage match, and however many go in, one comes out. It also has mod support on the Nexus. I haven't gone into any of that yet. This is definitely the game that I've played the least of, in case you couldn't tell. And it has a cameo of Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard, so that's fun. So what's the big idea, right? Does nobody know how to make a good spaceship game except for the Star Trek license holders? Maybe. I just wanted to bring these games up because other than Star Trek Online, I haven't really seen a lot of commotion about them, and I think they're good games. And I think that this sort of tactical space cruiser control genre is a really, really cool gameplay experience, and I wish that it would get more attention. Obviously, there are more space sim games like this out there than these few that I've mentioned. Starpoint Gemini, Astrox Imperium, Space Rain, Rebel Galaxy, all games that I haven't played, but I heard about them while reading up for this video. If you're interested in like RTSs, there's a lot of Spaceship Command RTS games out there. The Homeworld series, Battlefleet Gothic is a Warhammer 40k themed one. Everybody nowadays, if you're even remotely interested in space sims, knows about Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen. Will we ever see a good capital ship sim? I don't know. It seems unlikely at this point, but who knows? Maybe Star Wars will wisen up and realize that nobody likes the games that they've been making past Fallen Order and do something good for once. So that's the video. I hope you guys liked it. I had this idea for a while because I just one day remembered that Fractured Space and Dreadnought existed. That came to me in a brain blast, and I've been playing Star Trek Online for a significant portion of my life. I tried reading off of a script more, at least for the first half of this video. I'm not sure how much I like that. I probably won't do that again. I'll probably try to do more soft scripting or just reading off of a list of bullet points in the future. There's actually still ways to play Fractured Space in Dreadnought, which is how I got the footage for this video. Perhaps I will include links to their bootleg downloads in the description. If you made it this far, right, comment what's your favorite space simulator game, and if you have any ideas for what other videos I can make, why don't you leave them there for me as well. I have a couple other topics that I'm personally interested in, but to the 3 people that are gonna leave a comment that aren't my friends, what would you care to see?